Welcome to Pyramid One World Radio Network. You can call in and talk to our hosts by dialing 60547257766, then dial the access code 60860 hash, and you're ready to be part of a worldwide movement to educate everyone listening to these shows. Let's begin dialing.
This is a Pyramid One International Network presentation. Hi, and welcome to Pyramid One World Radio. Let me tell you about the host. Dr. Randall George Nozawa is living proof that a person can do everything right, only to suffer horrific events that ended decades of hard work and left him blind. The two most gruesome tragedies he suffered would make most people feel his pain, but not Nozawa. He's grateful just to be alive. Dr. Nozawa had played high school football in Honolulu and later became a professional bodybuilder. When he moved to Washington, the muscle-bound Nozawa enrolled at the University of Washington's dental school, studied hard, and faithfully graduated. Yet years later, after opening a handful of dental clinics, when he could finally afford the lifestyle he always wanted, a tree came crashing down and foiled all his best laid plans. We may call it tragedy. The doctor calls it adversity. Dr. Nozawa said, "Misfortune is just disguised as an opportunity." The first opportunity, as Nozawa calls it, was a near-fatal car wreck on his daughter's birthday in 2003. While driving his luxury car to her party, he was run off the road. A tree pierced the windshield, and the branch punctured his skull, destroying one eye, damaging the other. But that's how Nozawa met an older couple that would introduce him to his second life-altering opportunity. Caught in the middle of the couple's domestic violence incident one fateful night, his neighbor first shot his wife, dead, then shot Nozawa in the head from 12 inches away before finally shooting and killing himself. Now you may say to yourself, ouch. Nozawa said, "The crime shocked the community of Gig Harbor, where it occurred, and received its due amount of attention in the area newspapers. However, during his prolonged stay in the hospital, and as he took a year to learn to walk again, his wife, Deborah Nozawa, hired temporary dentists to keep the clinics open. Yet, when the businesses performed poorly under the temporary staff's care, family finances plummeted. And with all of his medical bills, you would think that would be the end of the story, but it's not. Regarding his home life, Nozawa is just grateful that his family has stuck by him. The doctor says, "My wife, Deborah, had to do a lot after I was in the car wreck, and again after getting shot." He said, "We went from awfully rich to rock bottom, penniless, and almost homeless." But these days, Nozawa has global plans for his businesses. Transformational Kaizen Institute for Personal Freedom. Indeed, he works by home and offers advisement over the internet to clients from all over the world and advises businesses in employee development and retention, in meeting long-term goals and in growth. Plus, now he also has a world-class radio show bi-monthly where you, yes, you, the public, can call into the show, dial the number, and talk to the doctor right here on Pyramid One World Radio Network. Dr. Nozawa says, dreams do really come true, but you have to believe it before you can see it, he said. He has made his own dreams come true by helping others pursue their life aspirations in his free 14-page book, Precipice of Potential, which can be downloaded at his website, www.drrandallgeorge.com. Dr. Nozawa's radio show is here to teach and inform the world of things that we who have sight can't see until the doctor tells you what to look for. There are many things in our life that can be changed. Tonight, allow the doctor to help you, to help yourself and others find yours and their paths on your journey of life. May I present to you, the listeners, and to the world, Dr. Randall George Nozawa.
Oh yeah, Doc. Oh, here we are. Bob. Before we get going, with my very special guest here, is that I want to thank you, for your leadership and your courage, because you because this channel and you speak the truth. I know you get censored a lot, okay, but the truth has to get out. Otherwise, we live in some kind of enslavement and all that. And thanks to Pyramid One and you, I have this show. The other is that because of your strength and courage, you get out information that people need to know if they want to preserve their freedom. So I want to thank you for that, and for your courage and leadership, because it's what's happening now is, as people know or may not know, and what you know is that when you speak the truth, often you get censored, and yes, it might be legal or something, but it's not the moral thing to do. It's not the right thing to do. So what you do with Pyramid One is bring truth. So thank you for that, and thank you for my show.
You are more than welcome. And not only that, come on, a guy like yourself, and there's no reason why the world shouldn't see and hear what you have to say.
Well, you gave me this chance, and like I said, each of our episodes here have been just so packed full of just knowledge. We've had great doctors on the show, just great leaders in their industries, and now today, how I met Sherry, that's going to be up soon here, is that I got a message from LinkedIn and said that, and just introducing this author. I go, oh, I've never, I'm an author myself, but I've never met another one. And not a one with a book like hers. And then we've been exchanging emails these past month, and it's just an incredible story she has about her, and more so her mother, and the growing up in an abusive household, and what she's done. And Sherry is an entrepreneur and just done very, very well in life, and great family and things. But she lived through domestic abuse, and you hear that on TV or in the news or on these specialized TV channels and all that, but she had to live through it, and so did her mother especially. Okay, and so I just, boy, was so grateful that she answered my pestering calls or my emails. She said, oh, and so she we chatted by email. And I'm so glad to have her on the show, because like you, is that she is one that is to stand on personal responsibility. And like how my programs go, you take your worst adversity and turn it into your greatest opportunity. And that's how she looks at life, and that's what she's teaching her kids, and that's what she's teaching the world actually with her new book, The Shattered Oak. And like I said, I'm so glad to have her on. And like I said, Bob, thanks to you, I've got a show, and because of that, we get to have her on. So, hey, Sherry, welcome.
Hey, what I was going to say was, before you go any further, this is about a book, and I've gone through the book, so I mean I'm a little familiar with it. There was something. Is Barbara your mother?
Yes, Barbara's my mother.
Yeah.
Barbara is your mother. May I
Yeah.
read something? This is something that she sent me, and I've read it to some people in there today, and one of them started crying.
Oh.
So you go figure. Her book is called The Shattered Oak. It's based on a true story about a mother using her faith and determination to overcome and battle domestic abuse, suicide, and misdiagnosis of mental illness. Now, a lot of people in there talk about that and they say, hey, there's a lot of that going around. Oh, yeah? Well, okay. Because it is written from a victim's perspective, it is open, it is honest, and it is real. And the truthfulness makes it relatable. It could easily be your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, even yourself going through a similar situation. Barbara, her mother, teaches us courage and strength to have the ability to move forward. The story provides comfort and hope that you are not alone by leading you down a path to forgiveness, and recovery. A beautiful, beautiful forward for this book. It was awesome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I know you're making me actually get a little tear in my own eyes
I saw you get it too. I mean,
Yeah.
just what that contains. I just set the stage for the doctor.
Oh, thanks, Bob. No, Bob, like you, and in this for me, families are important, and we hear it on TV and in life when people talk about abuse and all that, they say, well, okay, that's horrible, but I know nothing about it. You, Sherry, lived through it, and then Justin, what the exchanging emails with you, you told me a little bit about the book. And oh, by the way, I did get that audio version. Thank you, and I'm gonna find a way to open it.
Happy.
So yeah,
I'm
no,
so
so thank you, because I want I want to listen to it. Okay,
Oh.
but see, you honor your mother, and also yourself too, with a book like this, because look at our world now, with everything going on and all the fear and panic and all that, and people just running around doing all kind of crazy things. And what you represent here is leadership, and more, I guess, behind that leadership is this love. That there's unconditional love, love for yourself and love for your family, plus your love for your mother, and the caring for humankind, where this type of abuse is so unnecessary, and we have to be alerted to it. And for those people that perpetrated, like the guy who shot me, okay, is that totally preventable, and then we can make a difference, by supporting one another. So, I know that you're an entrepreneur, and that you're the youngest in this family, and yet you got to see the worst of everything. Okay, can you just do a little bio sketch of how you grew up, and what your parents were like, and
Sure.
and what happened, and just everything leading up to the book?
Okay, sure. Certainly. Thank you. First, thank you so much for having me on your show. You're wonderful. You're so inspiring, and your words are true wisdom. So I want to say first, thank you so much for everything that you both do. But yeah, growing up, I grew up in a small little town, and back in the 80s, I don't know, how everybody else's household was, but my household was everything in the house had to be private. Everything had to be kept a secret. no words, no, nothing left the house. So, my father, he was a wonderful man when he wasn't drinking, but he was an alcoholic. So, and I think that stemmed from his childhood, his dysfunction in childhood. I'll go kind of like his childhood first. How, he grew up really poor. His father was an alcoholic. They grew up on welfare, and he literally had to survive his own family growing up. They had no running water. He had no food half the time. He starved, many nights without eating. They didn't have heat in their house. He had a broken window by his bed. So he had a harsh uh, growing up. And then my mother, same thing. She was dysfunctional. Her parents abused her. They would whip her and beat her. They She was a family of three, and they um, gave everything to the other two siblings, but they never gave anything to my mother. Like, my mother never got clothing where the other kids got clothing. She literally was like Cinderella growing up. She had to make her own clothes out of burlap potato sack bags. And she could never understand why she was never accepted in the family where the other two children got to go out, got to do things. And she had to stay home, and they would just make her work, work, work around the house. Her father never called her by her name, which was Barbara. He always wanted another boy, so he would call her Bob. And he would always say, Bob, go do this. Bob, you didn't, go do that. So,
I'm leaving now.
yeah, so her DNA was to work, work, work. That's how she grew up. But she could never understand why she was worthless in the family and never loved like the other two siblings. So that was her childhood. And then my father and her met when her car broke down. My father was a mechanic. And they fell in love. And he did show signs of his angry temperament before they got married. So that's one thing for your listeners to be aware of. If you see angry temperament, raised voices, anybody raising their fist, those are your warning signs that you should stay away. My father did punch my mother's windshield out when they were dating, and she was totally surprised because she thought, he was his knight in shining armor, but he had this evil, side to him. He was kind of like Heckle and John, Heckle and what do you say, Heckle and I don't know what I'm trying to say, but
Jekyll and Hyde.
yeah. I don't, he wasn't ever diagnosed as bipolar, but who knows? He could have a little bit of bipolar tendencies because of this. So, anyways, they got married and they had their children, and he would beat her up all the time. I remember as a young child, she would be so fearful. Like, I think all of us in the house, we loved my father because he was so smart. He was really an intelligent man. So we were inspired by his talks. I learned a lot from him. He always said never talk negative, always talk positive. Like, he definitely had good wisdom that he shared with us as children. And he did show love to us children, but when he was drinking his whiskey, he was a totally different man. And he had a very, very, very mean streak to him. And, he knocked around my mother more than I can count on my hands. I mean, almost probably every night he would definitely use her as a punching bag. And they would, have a screaming match downstairs. And all of us kids would run upstairs and hide. And, thankfully, he never took the abuse out on us children. It was always my mother took the brunt of everything. We would hear his angry voice and be fearful of him in those moments. We'd all silently probably be happy when he finally left for the night. Seeing that he was a mechanic, he had a habit to have a task of taking out her distributor wires and her spark plugs. So she had to stay home after her beatings and she couldn't escape. So he always made sure there was no way for her to escape after he beated her. So, I mean, that's kind of how I grew up, and then after he would leave, we would tend to my mother and make sure she's okay. Sometimes she maybe lost a tooth and her mouth would be swollen and we'd have to feed her baby food. But I mean, you know, um, after all that, my mother finally, she started getting brave and didn't, was trying to separate herself from her marriage and him. And she put a divider in her bedroom to try to like separate the two of them. She got a little bit stronger and wiser. And he was very attractive, and he became very, very successful. And he became like a pilot, and he made a lot of money during work. And so he was a ladies' man, and he would definitely, scroll outside of the house a lot of times. So when my mother, would complain that she knew he was cheating on her, the more she complained, the more he would beat her up. So the more she became silent. So I think she learned, even from her childhood, how to adapt. And I think in my book, I try to explain, I think with dysfunctions from both sides, it kind of attracts you to each other. When you come from both dysfunctional backgrounds, you have this automatic connection, and you kind of accept each other for who you are. Not that it's an excuse, but I think it helps you. You just learn to adapt better. So, moving forward, thank goodness my mother finally did seek divorce. She was always fearful of my father, even after divorce. He always said he was going to kill her one day. So she was always in fright, even after divorce. And us kids, we were happy and sad that they got divorced. But I have to say, overall, I was definitely happy they got divorced, because our house became quiet and it wasn't so intense with him living there. Um, and then my poor mom, she had to take care of us, and my father sent money to her because he was rich. She did get a settlement. So she was, didn't have to work, and she could tend to us kids. But she thought she'd be happy after divorce, but she just kept spiraling down in depression. I think depression, just not knowing maybe the unknown, finding her own worthiness, just sad. So she started having a nervous breakdown. And as us kids, we could see it, but you just kind of, you're kids, you go to school. And I think definitely like our schools, I think they had to know that my mother, like all the neighbors knew she got beat up. Nobody ever intervened. Nobody helped her. The neighbors kind of would just avoid her. And schools, I mean, they had to know what was going on even when I came to school. But I think back then they didn't get into personal things. And even the cops were no help back then. They would wait at our driveway for one night, but then they would leave, and there was no salvation for her. So then moving forward, she had a nervous breakdown, and she was started committing suicide. She tried 3 times. And, us as kids, we had to keep watching it. And it was really scary, but it's kind of funny. I think it makes you stronger, and you just adapt to your situation. And all your experiences, I do believe this, give you strength. So I think anybody who's listening and you have a hard time in childhood or in life now, all your things that you go through in life give you your independence. And if you can find this independence, you find so much strength within yourself. And then once you find your strength, you can let go of your regrets, and you don't hold any grudges. So I know for me, I don't hold any grudges over the situation. Yes, it's very tragic. And I feel, my mother it was unexcusable for everything that he did. But I kind of understand from both of their standpoints from their childhood of who they became and who they were and why did they do the things that they did. So I don't know, I became adaptive to everything. But it was scary. I had my own, when I was, well, I'll go back to where my mother, she tried suicide. And we were, tragically scared for her, and we would bring, follow the ambulance, and they would, pump her stomach, and she'd come home, and she would say she would never try suicide again. She would see her therapist. So another great avenue, right, to your listeners. Oh, if you're having issues, please seek help. Seek help with a therapist. Journaling is a great way. I know my mother journaled. I know when my mother, after she committed so many acts of suicide, she went in an institution. State of Connecticut doesn't allow you to stay home once you commit too many acts of suicide. So they committed her to an institution. So during that time, that was the hardest time of my life where I spiraled down, and it was hard. My sister was my legal guardian, and she took care of me. And I think that's when I went in my own depression state. But for your listeners, such a great way. Like, I was young, I was only 13, and I was battling my own issues of suicide. But I think a really good way to help yourself, I didn't really know how to help myself, but I figured it out. Which is nice. You got to put your life all together like puzzle pieces. You have to figure, whatever life gives you, you just have to figure it out. So I took a night and I decided to journal, and I wrote all my fears, my regrets, things that were bothering me. How can I make things better? What can I do? And by journaling just like a few times, I really didn't have to do it many times. You write your things down, you crumple it up, you throw it in the trash can. And when you throw it in the trash can, you almost say, my gosh, I'm letting it go. It's all gone. Whatever's in my head, whatever I'm fearful of or sad or upset over, I can get rid of this and chuck it in the trash. So I found a way to cure my own mind by journaling. And that's how I got out of my suicide state as a teenager. I think another thing for our listeners, teenagers go through a hard time and maybe don't always tell their parents everything, but I really think it's important for guidance. I think I had guidance as a younger child, but I think if we can, as parents, guide our children just a little bit more, if you give more guidance, I think your child will succeed a little bit more in life. You're right. I just think I was lacking guidance. That's probably why I was the way I was. But I got myself out of it. And I do want to say that, anybody can recover. We can recover from so many different things, as long as we put our mind to it. We have to have a passion, a want, and a need to recover. Just like you, doctor, right? We have to find the ways to make us do these things. And everybody has different ways to heal, to help. It could be listening to music. My mother listened to music, help her heal. It could be exercise. It could be journaling. It could be so many different avenues, seeing your therapist, taking a friend. So we can, taking a friend, helping with friends. We can all do these things to find help. I thought of this one word I think helps people. It's called PAR, PAR. Everybody has a purpose in life. We all have a purpose. Sometimes we don't know our path in life, what our purpose is, but we all have a purpose. And then A for action. It's everybody's responsibility, and even yourself, to take action, right? We all need to take action. We need to, if you see a friend at work that is sad, it's your responsibility to find out what's the matter. Help them out. Your one smile can help them not do the act of suicide, go home to a domestic violence situation. If we all just put that little bit of time and effort into it, if we see someone down, you really have no idea what you could do, and that could be your purpose in life. And then the R stands for recovery, and there's always room for recovery. I just want to let everybody know that. And everybody goes at a different pace, right, doctor? We all go at different paces, and we have to. And it doesn't mean that you have relapses and you might be sad again, but I'm definitely here to say that there is recovery, help with. Now the world has so many great programs. So reach out to your friends and your therapist for help. So basically, yeah, that's kind of the story. So she did, she acted, suicide. She went in the institution. That was really scary for us as children. It was horrible experience for my mother. I won't give away the book, but she did get saved by a savior in the institution. That helped her get released from the institution. She and another reason why she got released, that sometimes your mental illness, like, when you're in the institution, they just think you're mentally ill. So they're prescribing you all kinds of psychic drugs to try to help your mind.
Yeah.
And they're doing awful, unspeakable things to you in this way back when. I don't know what goes on now to cure your mind. But even my doctor that my mother went to, he wrote in my book saying you got to think outside the box because not everything is relevant and is obvious. So in my mother's case, she really wasn't crazy, but when you read the book, you'll find out that there could be an illness behind it too. People sometimes act different ways because there's an underlying illness, and that can give you depression, that can make you want to be suicidal. So there's so many other ways that that there could be help. So that's kind of the story, my mother's story. And then I was lucky enough to meet a woman who was owned her own publishing company and gave me the opportunity to write the book. So I decided to sit on my front porch and write my mother's story that needed to be told and heard. And when I was sitting out on my porch, I was looking at this oak tree. And this oak tree was dead. It was dead at the core. It was broken. The limb was broken. And everything around it was so beautiful and so alive and so green. And all the oxygen was running through all the veins of all the other trees. And I'm looking at this dead tree, and it was so broken at the core, and it was dying from the inside out. And it just reminded me of my mother. It reminded me of her story of like how, she was so broken and she didn't know how to recover. Just like the tree, like it starts off alive, but then Mother Nature takes care of it and strikes it by lightning. It's taking all kinds of attacks. And that was just like my mother getting attacked by her husband, his fists, on her face. So I relate the whole entire book through my chapters of this tree, how my mother was feeling and how the tree's feeling. She was torn up at the roots, just like the tree, and charred and broken. So I don't know, the tree spoke to me, and it was a wonderful tribute, I think, where we can all relate. And I talk about at the end of the book how when we're driving down our roads now, don't look at these trees as an eyesore, but they're really someone who's been through a lot. And there's so many people in the world that have been through so much abuse, depression, mental illness. Let's not forget them. Let's help them, and let's have their voices be heard. So that's originally why I wrote this book. I wanted my mother's story to help, because my mother was a passionate, kind, loving soul who never deserved all of this that happened to her. And but I wanted to also know she always tried her best, and she recovered. At the end of the story, you find hope and resilience and survival skills of how you can survive, and you can get over any obstacle if you just put your mind to it.
Oh, that is so beautiful and wonderful. Why I wanted you on the show. Now, I thank you for all that, and I get to now know a lot more about your mom. And
Oh,
I wish she was around so I could meet her.
yeah, thank you.
And because she's part of you, and then her physical presence is not here anymore, but her spirit is. And thanks
Right.
to you, she gets to live on and on. And because of this book, you're going to educate and inspire thousands of people. Just to say that you're not alone, because your mom, it just was alone.
You know
And
what's
it's,
interesting, Doctor? That's so nice that you said that, because I didn't really know what path this book would take.
yeah.
And just getting it out on LinkedIn and other places, I found that recovery centers are using it.
Ah,
And now I have it all across the world in recovery centers.
yeah.
And they sit down, and I didn't think it'd be good for alcohol, I mean for drug abuse, for all these things, because my book doesn't talk about drugs. But as the therapists tell me, these people they do drugs or they do alcohol because of their childhoods and their dysfunction. And they love my book because they have the similarities that they could talk about in their discussion classes. So it's really neat to see that I really love this avenue now. Like, I'm really inspired and appreciate and grateful that my mother's story gets told at recovery centers. I think it's like such a nice home for it.
Yeah.
Um, because so many people go through what my mother goes through. And my mother, she did pass away before the book got published. She would be so proud that, you know, people are learning from her experience, because she would never want anybody to have to walk in the same shoes that she had to walk into.
No, you describe, you know, like I've never met her, but from just you being here and what you've talked about, you describe her strength and you know her love for you know other people and to wanting to help. And it's interesting with the when you talk about you know either addiction or the overconsumption of intoxicants and all that, what is at the core of that is just a you know a lack of purpose and a lack of understanding consciousness. So you have to depress the pain or you know just push off the unknown with something, because when you're intoxicated you know you're in la la land for a little bit, but unfortunately you come back to your senses and then life is the same. So unless you have a purpose, and you know it could be even you know a small one, you know that unless have an intention for something, then you know life becomes one sort of boring, and it becomes painful because you're meant for you know bigger and greater things. So and just listening to you, I'll kind of let you know this is that all the things you've mentioned of what you've done, you know, these are all personal development techniques, and you never have any training or classes or mentor. You just did it yourself. I go, oh my gosh, you know, you use all these personal development type of strategies, and you know that this is something you got to go pay thousands of dollars to go learn at these seminars, but you did it yourself. I go, wow, my gosh.
It's all life skills, right? Yeah.
That's right. You know, and then from there, what happens is that, you know, you could have gone the other way, because a lot of people
100%.
do, because they'll take an adverse event like this and become that event, and that becomes their identity. And now it's just, you know, oh, this happened to my mom. I'm no good. I've got her blood in me, you know, and then God, my dad, you know, and things like that. And you're going, oh, you know, I don't have a chance. And so, you know, you made a choice, because this is personal responsibility, but this is also self-love. And I love myself. You know,
I'm grateful. That's right. I think that's true. If you put like that, you're grateful. I think through my ordeal, I never thought of it as bad. I always just thought I was so grateful. I was grateful I still had food when my mother was in the hospital.
Yeah.
I don't know, grateful. Like both my parents came from such a poor background. How lucky am I that I had heat and I had water and I had food on the table? And you know, I always took everything. You can look at everything always in two ways, right? I mean, you could have the best of everything and think it's so bad, but I don't know, you just got to look at everything. There's every negative, there's such a positive. And it could be the worst situation in life, the worst situation, but there's always something small you could be grateful for and just pull yourself out of it. I know it's hard for a lot of, you know, people to find what it is, but if you can just find that little small thing to be grateful for, it gets rid of your fear, and you'll find that passion, and you'll be able to move forward.
No, well, let's see. You've just explained a major life lesson to the Pyramid One crowd, because just that simple thing, gratitude.
Yeah.
Well, it puts you in a different mindset and a different energy pathway and a different connection. Okay, because just with gratitude, it's like you've got this gift that you know, we can talk about God and all that, but you know, God put us here on earth for a reason, and it's up to us to find that reason. Okay, but we have all the skills and we have all the knowledge that we have, and it's up to us, you know, what to do with it. And you know, with your mom, the way, you know, both your mom and dad had these you know adverse childhood events and all that, they could have, you know, gone you know, differently themselves. It's that you know, for her, she's just full of you know, love and caring, but she grew up in a certain way, and she was you know, there as much as she could to stick up for you kids, but you know, she had this thing to deal with, and you know, that was her husband, and but she tried her best. But what happens is, you know, once you don't have that self-love or that feeling of worthiness, and you feel lonely, then life gets pretty painful. Okay, and so the best way, or the best way, you know, a way to end that pain is to take your own life. because this is beyond pain. It's pain multiplied and continues. So that's suffering. So you're suffering all the time, and you're asking your question, why? Why can't I get over this? Why can't I just move on? Why can't I? But she's exhibited her strength and all that. But now she's not only had that life experience growing up, but with your father, of being alone, being lonely, being powerless, being hopeless, being helpless. Okay, and then she's trying to she's getting her strength and all that, but that part hasn't developed in her yet. But she's trying her best to take care of your kids.
Right.
Okay, so and that's a big deal, because now she's, oh, that there's purpose here, but still has that emptiness inside that she's still trying to fill. And so I'm so glad you've written this about her, because you keep her alive, because she's a quality, strong, wonderful individual that needs to have her story told. And you're living proof from her, because what courses through her courses through you. And thanks to her, there's you. And then your children, and then you and you married Jason, your husband.
Yeah.
And so this new generation, because of her, gets to continue on, and you transmute your strength into them. You see, and so I'm so grateful that when you reached out and contacted me back, and thank you for being on the show. But see, yours is, to me, is a much bigger presence than I think you can imagine. It's with your book, but how you live. And with your kids that are going to be growing up, they're the next generation of leaders in our country. You see, and this is something that needs to get addressed, is this domestic abuse, because it's become so commonplace, so ubiquitous. They go, oh yeah, that's it. This guy, he gets a little drunk, beats up everyone, but that's how it goes. No, that's not how it goes. That's unacceptable. It's not. That's not behavior. There's no excuse for it. I don't care what it is. I don't care. How drunk you get. You don't do the kind of stuff. Okay, because it's this thing. And Bob talks about this all the time. You got to love yourself and love other people.
Sure.
And that's it.
And help other people. Yeah. Absolutely.
Exactly, because there's a joy in gratitude. There's a joy in helping out. There's a joy in giving.
Yeah.
Okay, but see, when pain gets too deep, then you suffer. And then the best thing is the intoxication with the alcohol. So now there's a brain science to that I don't bore you with, but it's now, for that moment in time, all that tension, anxiety in him gets to be released, and that's got to be imparted on somebody else. And what's the closest one is probably the one you're married to, right? So it's not the one you sit at the bar with and all that. You come home and this is what you do. You beat up that person that's supposed to be closest to you. But then, depending who the spouse is, there's just like, okay, I love this person. Do I stay with this person? What about the kids? Maybe he'll get better. Yeah. Maybe this will stop. Right. You see, and then and of course, if he's good-looking guy, that when he's doing things well, he goes, maybe he can be that best self more often. Maybe he won't do this again. And then so that there's that hoping, wishing, praying that, okay, maybe this will happen, but it doesn't. And so your mom was left in a very strange spot and very lonely, going, what do I do?
Very lonely.
There's so much good about this guy. Okay. But when he does a drinking part, he flips out, and now you can see that part of him, the selfishness, where a lot of it's premeditated, because he'll disable her car, make sure that he can't get away, so he wants to keep her trapped and things. And so where does it put her? In a very lonely place. You got to protect your kids. And say, maybe he'll be better. Maybe he won't do this. Maybe it'll be less and less. Maybe he'll grow out of it. And so time goes on, and then you get to watch all this. So I said, I'm so glad you wrote this book, because you honor your mother and you honor yourself. And then also too is that you honor this next generation with your kids, because that they get to live through all this and all that, and because of you, they can live great lives and live a life full of love and sharing that love. So with your mom's loneliness there, and how she suffered, you've put these experiences into this book, and all that, where we all can learn and live from, because there are millions of people out there, millions of couples, millions of families out there that are going through exactly this, and they're lonely, going, what do I do now? Who do I call? They won't believe me, or that they'll say, oh, just give it 24 hours and it'll pass by, or something like that. And so this is a chronic thing, and people get hurt. Okay, and then the adults involved get hurt, but the kids get to watch all this. They get to observe all this, and it's not TV. This is real life.
Right.
You see, and then from there it's like, okay, and a lot of these kids, we call that adverse childhood events, become their parents. Okay, and from there unless you've learned how to turn it off through personal development strategies and techniques, a lot of these younger people can't. They become just like their parents.
Yeah, you got to find the strength to do it.
Oh yes, and a lot of them become very successful. They'll have good jobs or become very wealthy and all that, or attain positions of power, and yet abuse that power, because that this is part of their inner selves now, is what they've what they observe, that they become that. So tell me, did your kids get a chance to interact with your mom at all?
Yeah, they both were blessed where they did. My son was about 17 when she passed, and my daughter was, I don't know, like 13 or so. So they did have many years with her. And
Oh,
she was
cool.
such a good grandmother. She really was. She really, you know, in the end of the book, you find, her mental illness was cured. And it's so nice to see that she recovered and became herself again, which, she didn't really struggle from depression at all at the end, which is a beautiful thing.
Oh no, that is wonderful. No, this is look, well, Bob and I talk about this a lot, and with a lot of my other guests, we've talked about this too. But just love in itself, just true love, it's got a lot of healing properties, because you have these, where does love come from? It comes from the source energy that's put us here, and so we have it, and then we can use it and employ it. But a lot of times, it gets lost, and like a muscle, once you lose it, it kind of goes away. But it's so healing. Okay, and then I see a lot of this in your mother, and then you've got that, and then you've found a way to step out from this and take a look at it and say, no, I want this for my life, and I want to honor my mother, and if I can make a difference with other people and other families, I want to do. And now you have a book. That's it's because when you talk about places in recovery, everyone's got a story, okay, and things like that, and it's what they do with that story. And so yours is yes, it's specific to you, but it's personalized. You connect with people, and once you connect, now everyone's you have their attention. They're listening. Says, oh wow, look at what what happened here. Look at what she did. Oh my gosh, so, and from there they go, well, if she can do it, maybe I can do this too, and so what you do is you more than inspire them, you empower them. So this is just the cool thing about your book, and I'm glad it's gone worldwide, because this is just not something you find in the U.S. and all. It's all over the world, and it's part of our humanity, our humankind. This is this is part of it with emotionality, and that unchecked can lead to something. And once you identify with, say, violence or non-purpose or self-deprecation, self-hate, you end up taking it onto others, because you want to get rid of that suffering yourself, that pain yourself. So you pick on somebody else. And so I'm so glad you wrote this book here. So when is it really coming out to get on the shelves? And
okay, yes. So it's currently now. So it's on Amazon. You can go on Amazon
okay,
and
it's on
just
Amazon
Google,
already. Okay.
yeah, the Shattered Oak. It's on Barnes and Noble. And it's in some Barnes and Noble in Connecticut and Massachusetts. That's as far as I got for stores for Barnes and Nobles.
Yeah.
Locally around me, they're in Barnes and Noble shelves. And then you can order it on, you can just Google www The Shattered Oak 2, and I have my own website. You could order it right from there. It is in an ebook form too. It's on Kindle and on Nook. And I just got Audible. It's in the it's not 100% finished right now, but it will be very shortly, like in about a week or 2 weeks, it'll be released for Audible too.
Okay.
And that will be, you can, get it right from your app on your phone. So it's a great book that I think a lot of people can relate to, because so many people, there's always something in there that you could relate to, whether it's divorce, depression, mental illness, suicide, PSDD, or was it, right? PTS, I mean, anxiety. There's so many, there's not even enough fingers on my hands to say how many, it touches so many different aspects in life that a lot of people find they can relate to. And because I wrote it in the first person, it really, a lot of people ask me, how did you write so well in your mother's mind? Like, it's really her thoughts. It's not me telling the story. It's my mother telling the story, and it's my mother's vision. So one thing important to me, because as a child, I really didn't enjoy reading, I'm going to be honest. And I met my best friend who died of cancer, unfortunately, but she taught me so many beautiful things. She said, Sherry, you just haven't read a good book yet. You got to go read a good book and you'll love to read. So we'd go to the library together and she'd find me these great books. And one thing I learned about reading, for me, I only enjoy it if I can feel it, see it, taste it, hear it, be there, live it, and visualize, like get the whole illusion of the book. And then I really can get into the book. So it helped me so much as a writer, because that's what I wanted to expel into my book. And it goes so, like, in her head, you'll definitely feel her fears, her regrets, her honestness. So honesty, I'm sorry, I'm not talking correct. But it's, because it's written in the first person, I think it helps, it's even more relatable that way.
Okay.
Let me just throw something in here. You don't realize your mother was helping you all through the whole book.
You're so cute. Thank you.
I'm not kidding you. I mean, it's serious. I mean, that's the way things like that happen. It's like like some people call it channeling and a bunch of other stuff.
Right.
I'm telling
But
you, energy is forever. So whatever's installed into you by your mother is a direct connection to your mother. So she's with you all the time.
Thank you, Bob.
She is. That's the only way you can possibly go through what you went through and the things I mean, I've got you sent me a thing here there actually refers on this, and some of these were so fantastic. I mean, look, anybody wants some information, will know where to write. Just write BobCharlesShow@live.com. Just write me. I will send you things that will put you on the floor. You think what I read you before did? I'll do it 100 times more. It is one of these books that I read, just like the person that you're writing about is standing there. That's what it is. I mean, that's what I went through. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's like the person telling her story, but you're telling the story. So nice. Oh, here we go. Direct connection.
I had a review on Goodreads. If you go on Goodreads, I have a really great review from a girl from India. My book was sold in India. And she said, it's such a nice review. And at the end, she said, I feel like I was sitting down having a cup of coffee talking to Barbara the whole entire time.
Yep. That's exactly what I got from what I read.
Yeah.
Oh, no. God, how neat. So what's next, for you then, and you personally and for your family? Where to now?
I think just really enjoying life, being thankful. We have so much going on in the world today, to just be grateful, stay positive, always find what makes you happy inside. Like if I'm having a bad day, I'll think about, what do I like to do, Sherry? What can make me feel better today? Would it be reading? What do I like to do? Do I want to go for a walk? find little inspirations in life to make you go through your day a better way by figuring out who you are, right? I think if you figure out who you are, and what you really enjoy, you can master anything, and the outcome would be happiness.
Okay.
So yeah, that's, just, hoping that my family's happy, we all still safe, and and helping others. That's huge. I want this book. I know a suicide foundation started because of my book in Wichita, Kansas.
Oh.
And I can't be any more. Oh my God, that's just a wonderful thing. The suicide, touches my heart too. And I would love, I don't want anybody, obviously, none of us want anybody to do the act of suicide. So in these depressing times, it's so easy for anybody, any age, to act on suicide. So that's another passion of mine. I want to make sure this book gets in the hands of people who need the help. And so that's really my goal for the future, is just really the recovery centers. I can't be any more happier, and the foundation.
So cool.
There's also while you talk about suicide, there's also, and I think I put it on your phone, a national suicide line. People who are just sitting on a chair and they're saying, gee, I want to jump off a building. I mean, at that point right there, pick up a telephone. Don't
Yes.
be. Pick it up.
Yeah.
Dial 1-800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. It's a national suicide line. These people will help you, bam, just like that. That quick. They will talk to you. They know where you are. They know where the area is. They're not going to send some guy at the door saying, oh, would you like to buy this magazine? No, that's not going to happen. But what is going to happen is someone will get in touch with you, and then you'll be able to make some kind of sense out of your life, so you don't go into that corner and say, "Oh, I want to end my life." What is there after life? Nothing. However, I won't go into the rest of it because I've been there. So, not the suicide part, but I've been on the other side.
Yeah.
Yes.
The whole thing is, what you have to do is you have to remember. Well, here I'll read you something that I say on some of my shows or other shows and talks. Remember and learn from the past. You did this book. That's the only reason why I took this out. I was like, oh my God, this is so right. Live in the today or the now. That's where you live. You're here. It's right now. This is your life. It's like on TV. This is your life. Or those things. But cherish the future. The future, you're making the future. So you have to cherish the future. You have to plan ahead. What am I going to do tomorrow? That's what I do at 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm out walking my dog. I already know what the last thing of the next day is going to be, just by going out. Meditation is a great thing. And just going out for a long walk or something like that, clear your mind and everything. And believe me, the things that come through, you don't get these feelings. You don't get, the depression goes away, even if you are depressed. I know after my son passed, I was not in a good place, for sure. But I fixed myself all by myself. And that knowing that I'm still here and he's still with me
Yeah.
all the time. All the time. In fact, sometimes he's a pain in the neck, but that's okay. I mean, he's around. But the whole thing is what you had spoke about in the book. Your mom is actually speaking to the world. It's funny you're saying that the book is all over the place. I wonder who put it there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody had some influence somewhere.
Right. It's the energy. Yep. No,
and
that's
and it also a good way to remember too, help is not a weakness. Help, if you ask for help, it's a strength, right?
Strength.
Always remember that asking for help, never be ashamed. It's always a strength more than weakness.
Well, a lot of people that are in that situation think they're weak.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really the opposite.
They're really
very strong. They're way stronger than they thought they ever were. And even though they feel this way, now they have to retreat a little bit and say, oh, wow, that's me. And then I am. When they get to the I am, that's it. They got it beat. I always tell people go in, and the doctor's heard this too a couple of times. You go into the bathroom, look in the mirror, look in your eyeballs. I mean, in your eyes. Look
Yeah.
into the little dots.
Reflection. Yeah.
Hey, exactly, and say, "I love you,"
Yeah.
but believe it. Don't just look in and say, "Oh well, I got to shave." No, none of that stuff. Just look into your eyeballs because your eyes are the windows to your soul.
Yeah.
Mm.
And if you go and you look into that mirror and you actually believe that I am looking at my soul, you will come out the other end of that going, what the heck did I just do? And forget about anything that was bad in your life. I mean, it just washes away. It's really, really cool. Everybody should try it. Just like when I saw the tree. Have you ever hugged a tree?
I'm not sure. Maybe, probably. Yeah, probably. I love trees. Yeah.
I'll give you a quick one. Go barefoot. You got to do it. Go
And hug the tree.
and go, yep, and go up backwards, backwards, back up against the tree, barefoot on the ground, and it's got to be, not the grass or anything else, but I mean real, real ground. Your arms backwards around the tree, and put the, hug the tree.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay, but stay there for about, I would say about 2 minutes, 3 minutes. In about 2 minutes or 3 minutes, you're going to feel something on your back. It's going to be like some little something either crawling up your back, and it's not ants or anything else.
I was just going to say
It,
that, spider.
every single tree is full of like static electricity. When the connection between you and the tree are one, you'll feel it.
Yeah.
These things are all live. Every single thing that we touch is live. So when
Interesting.
you
Yeah.
talk about your tree, the tree in that was trashed and gone and finished and everything else, there is life in those trees. And that tree, even though dead, is still talking to you because it's still
Mm-hmm.
connected to the earth.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting stories, I'm telling you. And this is no story because I mean, I know a man who goes around the whole world planting trees for free. He raises, these all kinds of different trees and everything else, and then just, donates them.
That's so great.
And he was the one that taught me. He said, "Look, you got to go outside and you got to hug a tree." I said, "What are you crazy?" And he says, "No, I'm not crazy." He said, "It's for real." And believe it or not, I did it, and I went, "Whoa!" It was like, "Whoa!" And it really does work.
Mm.
No. Well, Bob, there's actually a science to that, because, from trees and from the ground, it's called, earthing, is that we accept into our bodies electrons, and those, match up with all the free radicals in our bodies. So we actually become healthier for that, and it calms us.
Exactly, exactly. And you're grounding yourself.
Yeah, you see, and so what you're doing is that, it may sound kind of foolish to some, but that it actually really works because when you talk about trees,
Mm.
what predates pretty much everything that we know. Trees are historic, and thanks to trees, we have air, and we give trees carbon dioxide, and then they use that, and it gives us air. We're tied to trees, and we're tied to our earth. Okay, and then
That's
so
true.
and the more we get back to honoring that relationship, we're going to be a lot better off. And with all this craziness going around now, I think we need to start getting grounded, literally. And like I said, and I'm so glad Sherry was on the show because a book like this connects us. We get connected because the disconnection a lot of times leads to all this kind of stuff. When you feel lonely and alone and just helpless and hopeless, you do things you wouldn't normally do, or you tolerate things. And I'm so glad that one that that dead oak tree is still there because it's still a vessel and it still has spirit in it. And because of that, this book has got a really cool name, and you get to honor your mother, and that is such a cool deal. And yeah, we're probably heading to the end here, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sherry, uh, tell your publisher that and think of this yourself, that your second and third books are going to be on some kind of personal development and spiritual development because you've taught it to yourself, and I think other people can learn from you.
Well, thank you. I know a
So
lot of my friends say I'm like a life coach.
Yes, well,
Yeah.
you are. You're a living life coach, and then, like I said, nothing you've been taught, things you've learned, and a lot of it's spiritually driven. And so I can see another, second and third book here. So tell your publisher that after this one, well, let's go do another one because you have so many gifts to share with everybody else. So please
Thank
keep it
you.
going.
Thank you, doctor. You're so kind. I appreciate everything that you do too. Thank you so much.
That's great.
Well, you're part of the family now, so you're not
Yeah.
going anywhere.
Oh, I like
Yeah.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
What I do want to remind you though is, and I know the doctor was going to do it, but I beat him.
Yeah.
But anyway, tell us again all the places that we can get that book.
Awesome. Yes. So you could go on Amazon and Google The Shattered Oak. You can go on Barnes and Noble website, get it. You can get it on your Kindle. You can get it on your Nook. You could get it right on my own website, which I do have a couple blogs in there, and it has a couple of beautiful articles that you can learn and inspire from. And that would be the www.theshatteredoak.com. You could also go to my publisher's website, which is safegoods.com. And then everything will be delivered, from Amazon and right to your home and into the hands of healing and hope, and let your voice be heard. Listeners, please don't pronouncing, I can't even say the word, but make sure you find help if you need help.
Don't prognosticate.
Thank you. I can't even say the word yet.
It's okay.
What I was going to say was that there's another little thing in that I want everybody to actually think about. There's a picture in the book, in the beginning of the book.
Yes.
And it's a tree in a living room. Now, if you can't believe me, if you don't believe me that there's a tree in a living room, you got to buy the book. It's in the book when you open up the cover.
There's such a good story about that picture. Do you have time? Do you want me to share it?
Yeah, well, you can go ahead. Yeah, you'll get some time.
You sure?
Yeah.
That story, I was thinking about writing the book, and I met this girl at Staples, and she was doodling by her register. And she was just an amazing artist. And she was like, had these pictures, and you could tell she was definitely a little different. And I was like, oh my gosh, these pictures are so great. Like, and she had no self-confidence in herself. And I was like, you have no idea what a great drawer you, like, these are amazing. You need to do a book of these beautiful art, pictures that she had. So then I slept on it. And the next day I'm like, I am going to ask her to draw me a picture of all my metaphors in my book.
Wow.
Because I wanted to give her confidence that she was just such a great artist, and she didn't realize the gift that she had. So I asked her, I told her all my metaphors in my book, which was the tree, and I have a picture of the castle in the sky and the woodpecker. And so she did that beautiful drawing, and it came out so nice. I have a nice big one in my bedroom of it. It's beautiful.
It was an awesome picture. Now I saw the picture, I was like, oh yeah.
Wow.
That's cool.
Yeah, and her name's right under there, so you could always Google her name if you ever want a picture of something. Maybe she'll be able to draw it for you. But she really is a beautiful girl. She's like in her 20s, and it was nice to give her just to let her know that she had worthiness in her art. She was so good.
There you go, Doc.
Yeah.
Oh, so cool. Hey, thanks for being on. And you are a life coach. So, please kind of follow that path and see where that leads you. But, you change lives. And thanks to your mother who's with you, and because of her, you have a book. Okay, you can carry this on. And so tell your publishers you've got more books coming, and
Yeah, you're so
great thanks, much thanks to your mother, and then lots of love to your husband and your children. And thanks for being here, and we'll just keep on going.
And it was such a pleasure meeting both of you. I appreciate both of you very much. And Doctor, I love your emails. I love your words. You really inspire me, to be honest with you. You are amazing in writing. And I even showed my husband your email. I was just so impressed by your writing skills. So thank you for everything that you do too.
No, like I said, thanks to Bob, I have a show. And
Yeah.
Well, no, really, because because him and his courage and his leadership, this Pyramid One is worldwide. And well, I get to bring on guests like you, and what we need, just leaders like yourself that's love driven. And we'd have a much better world if people kind of just lighten up here, and then kind of lead with unconditional love instead of all this darn selfishness that's going around here. So thank Bob for all that, and I thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, there you are. Pleasure having you, Doctor. You're the best. I want to tell everybody, too, you know what? Copy of this video is going to be tomorrow in the Pyramid One Radio archive. You can see the video. You can also write me. How many people do? Hundreds. They say, Bob, will you please send me a copy? Well, you can always go right into the... never mind, I'll send you a copy anyway. But this is what it is. Tomorrow, probably tomorrow evening or something like that. If you want to get in touch with me, just write me at bobcharlesshow@live.com or pyramid1radio@aol.com. When you write me, what I will do is I will send you the copy of this show. Okay, doke.
Thank you. Night.
God bless y'all. Bob Charles.